Empaths should know their moon sign. All empaths with the mother wound should know how to work with their moon sign to manage mama drama trauma triggers. Today, we're talking about your moon sign, and wherever it is on the zodiac wheel, the sign opposing it is the way out of emotional dysregulation caused by unhealed wounds. The lack of maternal presence, protection, or provision of care may have caused and still creates havoc in our lives. Of the 12 moon signs, we break them down into the pairs of sign, opposing sign today, and you'll learn what your moon sign is and what that opposing sign energy is that will help balance emotion. Welcome to Mama Drama Trauma Academy. Aries, Libra, relationship fever, Taurus, Scorpio, a lot you don't know, Gemini, Sagittarius, is it the gospel or gossiping, Cancer, Capricorn, healing karma or self-storm, Leo, Aquarius, self-centered to altruistic, Virgo, Pisces, ego to divinity, identity. I can understand. I can make amends. But I realize I can understand. I can make amends. There are 3 disclaimers. Number 1. Use self-awareness when determining how, when, and with whom you apply this information. It is your responsibility to use it according to what you know is true for you and about you. 2, if you are in any form of mental or emotional therapy or in a doctor's care, though imparted tips, tools, and techniques are proven as effective supplements to formal care, what is offered here is not intended to replace it. If you are at any time triggered, pause the session and resume once you've regulated. And 3, while Mama Drama Trauma Academy specifically speaks to empaths with the mother wound, absolute accuracy is not guaranteed, nor are results of healing sessions, information, communication, video content, consultations, and sessions with me, Tammy Taylor, or anything on the mamadramatrauma.info website. All content is created for educational, spiritual, and entertainment purposes only. Your moon sign is your soul memory. It is your mother. It is the music of the spheres. It is your money. It is your mood. I want to talk to you about this today. You're going to be hearing some background sounds because I'm driving in the Bronco today, which is a good analogy for what we're talking about with regard to the moon. It's very Bronco-ish in terms of how we deal with the moon and how we manage our emotions as empaths with the mother wound. It is very much being in that moment of getting where you need to go, despite the challenges, despite the noise, the disruptions. It's having the tools, having the apparatus, having the proper vehicle to travel from point A to point B. So our moon sign is a very central core indicator of how we do that and why we do that. So I'm going to go through the zodiac and I'm going to simplify some things with regard to how Saturn Moon, as the signature for Mama Drama Trauma, operates and how our awareness, knowledge and comprehension of the machinations of this aspect in all of our charts can help us to experience that point A to point B with our birthright of health, happiness, and wholeness. Okay, so we want to be able to go from point A to point B. And what is point A for us? Point A is always returning us back to this loop, and that's the Saturn, the return back, the obstacles, the limitations that keep us going back, and that frustration, going back to that core of maternal abandonment and abuse. Everything seems to go back to that. That's the karma of this. And the moon, that mood, that general mood of melancholy, that general mood of frustration, that general mood of anger, rage, depression, okay? And so that's Saturn Moon that is created through this conditioning, this experience, this cycle of mama drama trauma. If this is your first time with us, welcome. This is MDT Academy, where we learn how to let go of the mother we want in order to accept the one that we have. Great Mother downloaded the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck for us to learn how to do that in a compassionate and irreverent way. We are human. And our mantra that she gave us as the foundation of this deck is our goal. It's our healing goal to live in loving detachment. Once we are there on a consistent basis where we're no longer triggered by MDT is when we're healed. And that's why our daily practice is living in love and detachment a little bit more like the phases of the moon. It's a little bit more to that full moon. And then we loop back and then to the waning moon where the light starts to go away again and we're back in that darkness and we're back again. That's why it's our daily practice. We realize we have Saturn Moon. But the more consistently we are in that space of full moon awareness, the light of our divinity, through the mantra she gave us, I am a dearly loved divine child of the great Mother, Father, God, who is never judged, condemned, or left alone. The more we experience that, it's not faking it until we make it anymore. It's actually making that our lives every day. And we do that using our powers of intuition, using our powers of strong empathy. We absorb the feelings, the atmosphere. We absorb the room. We don't just read the room. We absorb the energy of the room when we enter it. Instead of doing that as a default of this particular energy, we learn here at Mama Drama Trauma how to galvanize, redirect, recognize, and reclaim that energy as our divine birthright to direct and to make our daily experience one of health, happiness, and wholeness. So welcome to you and welcome back to those of you who are students of MDT Academy. Your moon sign. Your moon sign is the nexus of the power axis within your emotional core. Our emotional core is how we truly feel. That's all. It's not complicated. None of this is complicated. It's having the wherewithal to give ourselves the time and space to let this intense emotional condition breathe long enough for us to understand it.
So there's a lot of noise always in our lives, right? There's always a lot of confusion. We're always trying to go and be and do what everybody else wants us to go and be and do, and not really taking care of ourselves. And so what we're doing here is a redirection of that right now, learning about our moon sign, and that core of emotion. Emotion is thought and feeling in motion. Our thoughts are based on that instinctual initial feeling about something. Right now I'm driving down a palm-lined street in Florida. It's very beautiful. It's just footsteps from the beach. My feeling is of comfort. My feeling is of joy. My feeling is of beauty. And therefore my thoughts tend towards that. My thought tends towards compassion for myself and for others. My thoughts tend toward the beauty of life and how I can have more of that in this moment. Okay? So that's emotion. Okay, feelings and thoughts, emotions, because the moon moves. Our mood moves. It's the fastest moving planet. Every 2 minutes it's shifting. And every 2 hours for sure, it's in a whole different space. And every 2.5 days, the moon itself moves from one sign to another. At this particular moment in the Vedic astrology, which I study, it is in the sign of Aquarius. Tomorrow, it's going to be in Pisces. It's been in Aquarius for 2.5 days. So what we want to do is be aware that part of understanding the relevance of our moon sign is understanding that the core of all of us is an energy that is a frequency always changing. It's always moving. It's not meant to be stable in any way except for the sign in which it is. Now, the sign that it's in at our time of birth is the height and the extent of emotional stability we will have. Okay? So if you are an Aries moon sign, for example, the height of your emotional stability is going to be one of a leader, one of directness, one of force and presence in the world. That is the height of emotional stability and presence and feeling state of I am you're ever going to have. If your moon sign is Libra, the opposing sign of Libra on the other end of the zodiac wheel, the height of your emotional stability is going to be emotional intellectual balance, where what I feel and what I think are in alignment. Well, I'm feeling beautiful, I'm feeling like the world is beautiful, I'm feeling things are great, and I actually think that about the world. I really sincerely actually think that things are going to be great. That will be the height of your emotional stability as a Libra moon sign. So we want to be able to understand and recognize that when we are in a state of emotional stability, it is as a result of our moon sign. The benefit of recognizing this, of comprehending this, of living according to this awareness is incalculable. Just knowing that in and of itself. As a Taurus moon sign myself, just knowing that the height of my emotional stability is feeling comfortable, having beauty and security within and around me is the height of my emotional stability has halved my challenges with MDT. Using the Oracle deck from that perspective, I shuffle the deck asking Great Mother a question. It could be about anything. It could be about, Great Mother, what is it that you want me to know about this vacation I'm thinking of taking to this particular place? What do you want me to know about this? I'm entering that reading knowing already that it's going to have to do something for it to be good, which is what Great Mother wants for us. It's going to have to do something with comfort, beauty, and feelings of security within and around me. I already know that going in. Okay, so whatever message she has for me, whether it is this is going to be a journey that is really going to give you some insights into how to love yourself more, how to pay attention to your needs more, or she tells me that this is a journey that you need because you need to rest. You need to give yourself more comfort. You need to activate that self-love in a deeper way. Whatever message she gives, which is always a loving message, by the way, it's Great Mother. It's the Holy Spirit. It's the still small voice of the Holy Spirit that loves us. She is going to make sure that we have that stability. Because with Mama Drama Trauma, Saturn Moon is the signature, the astrological signature of maladjustment. Saturn Moon means that the moon is maladjusted. It means that the moon has been completely starved. Okay? It's been starved of what it is. And if as a Taurus moon, I've been starved of comfort, I've been starved of security, I've been starved of beauty. And I know that that is because of Saturn Moon. There is a responsibility as a divine child of the great Mother, Father, God, who's never judged, condemned, or left alone, for me to make that right. Okay? For me to make that right. And in order for me to make that right, I need to know what that stability is and what triggers that instability as I attend to myself. Because a lot of times what happens with us is that we begin our self-healing process and we get frustrated and discouraged because it is such a shift from our conditioned way of behavior that the challenges that we begin to face are too overwhelming. You know, for example, we might leave a toxic environment, but then where we go is toxic in other ways that we had never considered. You know, being around mama and the family and this, that, and the other was really toxic in terms of the daily criticism or the daily lack of appreciation or the daily whatever. And where we go, we decided to go there because we do feel those things that we lacked. We do feel appreciation. We're around people, we're in an environment, whatever. We feel that we can be free. But then it's loud. We didn't know when we went to look at this place to live that during the day, it's really loud. You know, or during the night, rather, we went to see it during the day and it was quiet or whatever, but at night it gets really loud because it's near a cool spot and that's where we wanted to be near the cool spot. But we didn't take into consideration the noise pollution. And as empaths, that can really hurt us. That can really cause us even more problems. So that happens, and then the new job is not what we wanted. We thought it was going to be, and then we just say, forget it. You know, I'm going to go back home, or I'm going to do something, and just completely derail our healing process. So, knowing our moon sign, perhaps, if you're a Taurus, you're going to do your due diligence in your self-care enough to make sure that it's going to be comfortable up and down and around, all in and out. You're going to be doing readings about this, that, and the other that you know you need to be comfortable. Does it have the kind of restaurants I need around? Does it have the kind of grocery stores that sell the food that I need, that I know to keep me balanced? You're going to be doing all of that. You're going to be doing everything about, the security about this job. And if it doesn't work out, what other kind of jobs does it have in this area? Or what other kind of things can I do online? You're going to be doing all of that so that that's taken care of. So that the other challenges that come with the self-healing and the growth and everything that we discuss here, those are not so overwhelming that you dysregulated even thinking about doing it. And that's what happens a lot of times. We can just get caught up in these knots, Gandanta as they call it in the Vedic astrology, and we're not able to release the emotion and get into the fire of purification because of the backlog of just not knowing that water, that moon, the waves, the waxing and the waning going on within us. So knowing that your moon sign is the basis, your core of stability, and what is going to trigger you is key. For me, for you, what is going to trigger us is our opposing sign. So we talked about Aries, Libra, Aries being the singular, the leader, the assertion of self, and the Libra being the balance of emotional, intellectual, which has to do with relationships with others and being able to integrate that into an internal alignment of emotional and intellectual. That will destabilize an Aries. An Aries who has a leading mentality, an assertive, direct mentality, knows that it needs to be in environments that allow for that cultivate that. And that, therefore, the opposing sign of Libra, what we need to know for all of us, but we're going to go through it, Aries first. Libra will destabilize the Aries. And so anticipating that any type of emotional and intellectual challenge or discord, internal discord, is going to challenge that clarity of self-direction. Then that lets you know to always be ready to do inner work at the drop of a hat. Aries moon sign, speaking off the cuff, acting off the cuff, very knee-jerk, and when it is divinely inspired, as we want to be doing our inner work, that's fantastic. But sometimes just going through the course of our day, operating on lunar default, our moon sign default, something will come up, as life always does. It's a learning process. Well, is that really what you wanted to say? Is that really what you wanted to do? Yes, you said how you felt about this particular situation, and you gave this person your peace of mind with regard to what they need to do or what they don't need to do. But now this has created a situation based on that person's reaction to you that you're wondering whether or not it was worth you saying that. You wondering whether or not it was worth you doing that, because now it's putting your situation in jeopardy. What you were trying to achieve in jeopardy, but because you were threatened by what they were doing, you had to give them a piece of your mind as an Aries, as a leader. But now they're like, oh no, I don't think so. And so you have to be ready, Aries moon sign, to say, okay, well, I wanted to lead in a particular direction. My intent was to protect the outcome of that direction, but now I'm being challenged. And so instead of automatically doubling down, you want to know that the knee jerk is starting to escalate. You want to learn to de-escalate the knee-jerk as an empath with the mother wound, as Aries, empath with the mother wound. Because that is just what gets you into deeper and deeper situations where you can just jump from one thing to another and not really feel the satisfaction of your leadership, not feel the appreciation of your directness and your clarity that you can share with others. It just digs a deeper hole instead of actually getting you from point A to point B. So you want to de-escalate that, and you want to ask yourself, okay, so this person is responding to me and saying that this is not right. Let me look at their viewpoint and see where I can find an intellectual connection with this person that will allow for my emotional satisfaction, which is going to be to direct and to guide the situation. Where can we have a meeting of the mind, so to speak? And you're going to have to train yourself to do that. And that's what the daily practice of living in loving detachment from the default. When we have MDT, that's all we want. All we want is the emotional stability, right? And so that's all we tend to focus on, not realizing, our moon sign has its unique brand, version, flavor of default that we're trying to honor, and that it will constantly be challenged and constantly just dysregulated because of this condition. Mama drama trauma. Saturn sitting right there with the moon. Saturn is restriction. Saturn is obstacles. Saturn is karma. It's making us loop through things that we have ignored over lifetimes in order to course correct. And so we've done this kind of defaulting behavior over lifetimes that in this lifetime of mama drama trauma, we are being given an opportunity to correct. But in order to do that, we need the insight that will afford us the capacity to implement our natural abilities in ways that do that. Okay? All right? And likewise with Libra moon sign. Always wanting to connect with others because the default for stability is the emotional, intellectual alignment. And instead of doing that within, as Aries naturally does, it will seek to do that with others through the approval, through the relationships with others. It will seek to have that accord manufactured outside of itself. It will seek to balance it outside of itself. And that is the default. That feels good. That feels secure. So anticipating that your default is going to be Aries energy, in the reverse, the opposite side of the zodiac sign of Libra, anticipating that you will constantly have Aries type energy dysregulating you, things coming up that will force you to have to make your own decisions, things coming up that will force you to have to be direct in order to experience emotional, intellectual, internal peace, that will force you to have to lead others in order to get the connection with others that you seek. When you are able to anticipate that that is going to constantly be coming up, you want to begin to develop those tools, develop those abilities, develop those insights that will allow you to do that when it comes up. For example, all your life, that may have been what you've been doing. And where do I start? Well, start with what is the most obvious thing for you. which is always the most apparent problem, the most apparent challenge, the most upsetting thing in your life. And so if the most upsetting thing in your life is that you have difficulty being direct because you're a people pleaser, start there. If the most upsetting thing in your life is that you are not able to align with people because you have difficulty letting them know what direction you want to go, how you want the relationship to be guided, start there. Become more aware of truly how you feel. Whenever there's emotion and intellect involved, just like with the Oracle deck, you start with the lower chakras up. So emotion is heart below, intellect is heart above. So always start with your emotions, start with your feelings, start with your thinking. What is it? How do I really think about my when I am constantly not being given what I wanted in relationships? How's that making me feel? And therefore, what is that making me think about relationships and being in relationships? How is that conditioning me to emotionally be when I'm around people that I want to be in relationships with? What am I giving? What am I giving off? What are they feeling from me as a result of this energy that I have around relationships? Oh, okay, so this is how I really feel. I really feel like I'll never get what I want. What I really feel is that no one will ever listen to me. And why is that? Because you never tell them. You're not direct. Okay, so anticipate that there will be opportunities for you to be direct, and take it when they come up. Remember, this is a step-by-step process. Ego-soul alignment does not happen overnight. This is soul work we are given to do this lifetime. So you have plenty of time to do it. We have plenty of time to do it. And you have plenty of time to benefit from the results of your efforts and your hard work. You will be blessed. You will receive so much encouragement from your angels, guides, and ancestors. You will get things and experience things you've never experienced. You'll start to have people attracted to you that never paid you any attention before, the kind of people that you like. And that will be a process of engaging those relationships, learning how to use that directness and observing them and how direct and how loving they are. And they will teach you and they will guide you, Libra moon sign. So I have links here of the moon sign calculator. You want to use the calculator that applies to you, and there are two. The reason there are two is because there are two astrologies. There is Western astrology or tropical astrology, which is geocentric. It's astrology that is based on the human eye gazing at the night sky. And there's the astrology of the astronaut. There's the astrology of the human eye within the cosmos, looking at the cosmos as itself, which is Jyotish, the science of light. It is a universal, holographic, cosmic perspective of the cosmos. And so you want to be sure that you do both. Most people are going to have, like myself, my moon sign in the Jyotish, the Vedic astrology, is in Taurus, whereas in the tropical Western astrology, it's in Gemini. Every sign has 30 degrees. There is a 24-degree difference and signs between tropical and Vedic astrology. So in Vedic astrology, my moon is at 10 degrees approximately, 10, 11 degrees. Whereas, of course, you add 24 to that, you're going to get 6 degrees, I guess 24 plus 10 is 34. You're going to get, 5, 6 degrees, 7 degrees Gemini in the tropical would be my moon sign. How do you know which one to use? How do you know which one to pay attention to? The moon sign is our soul memory in the Vedic. In the tropical, it's pretty much just the emotional memory. And that's okay, if you're just beginning to do this work, okay? Like I said, you're just kind of beginning, you got emotional work, use the tropical. When I say just beginning, that means you haven't done the work, all right? May have been reading and studying a bunch of stuff, but you are not and have not been applying what you've learned to the degree that you have been noticing these types of changes I'm talking about in your life. You need to use tropical Western astrology, because that's more kind of based on your conditioning this lifetime. Vedic astrology, you're going to use if you have been doing this work for a while, you have been doing inner work for a while, and you have been noticing results, you have been improving your situation, you are beginning to live in loving detachment, you are not as easily triggered with MDT as you have been in the past. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm talking about from your heart and your gut, you are not triggered. Things do not bother you as much. Not that you're unbothered. We're never completely unbothered. But you've been doing it for a while. Yet, because you're not unbothered, you're still doing your work. Use the Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is better for empaths who are empowered empaths who have been using their power in ways that are self-serving. Vedic astrology is for us, because although not every Hindu person who is born under Vedic astrology is an empath, they are born under a culture that has a basic underlying belief in the unity of humanity. There's a unity of understanding the collective consciousness that's taken for granted. And so no one needs to explain to you. You don't need to go to lectures for a decade in order to comprehend that. You don't need to see a whole bunch of science about it. You're born under that. It's in your DNA. That's just your culture, okay? And so that's why it applies to them naturally, whether they're an empath or not. Those of us from the Western tradition who have not been born in that, we do have to have that kind of reindoctrination in order to really reconnect with it. Even though we are empaths, of course, because of the wounding, we have been alienated from this awareness. So calculate your moon sign and use this information accordingly. Now, I want to return to the Taurus moon sign and the axes of stability and stabilization as I complete this. But before I do, be sure that you go to the links in this podcast to your moon sign calculator so that you can recognize your own moon sign, which is where the moon was in the sky at the moment you were born. If you do not know the exact time in which you were born, your moon sign may not be correct, which is an indication that you especially want to look at both your Western and Vedic moon signs to see which resonates with you the most. Now, from there, you want to contact me in order to get a rectification of your chart, which means to really make sure you're working with the right chart. If you have to have at least an idea of the hour of something of the day that you were born. If you don't, use noon if you believe that it was during the day, and midnight if it was at night, and go from there. Okay? All right. So let's continue with the moon signs and their relevance for you, continuing with Taurus. Okay, Taurus, Scorpio. Tell me if this is making sense to y'all. Tell me if this is making sense to y'all, because these extremities represent an axis we have the capacity to manage, this overwhelm of feeling like, oh, okay, I'm an empath, and so that means I'm supposed to da 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 da. No, it is a power that is only useful when it's focused. So we are talking about how to focus that energy in ways that help us release this karmic bind of MDT, okay? And so this axis is the core nexus of how we do that, using our power. And our powers are powers of energy, frequency, feelings, emotions, and we just drown in this water, these waves, this waxing and waning of the moon. And this is how we get our life jacket that we were born with. We have many lifetimes of experience of being rescued, which is why we know intuitively that there is a divine power. We don't know it just because, we were born empaths and we know that. No, we've had many, many, many lifetimes of experiences where we have learned that through being rescued at the last minute from an epidemic, a pandemic, and we could have died because we were in the midst of it. Okay? Hello? Where we could have died if someone hadn't just gone a centimeter away from us with a sharp object, or we were deathly ill and suddenly recovered from something that was perceived to be irrecoverable from. And so these are experiences that we've had, and that has made us have a soul memory that is highly sensitive to healing frequencies. And so that's why we want to live in an escape, and we do drugs, and I did them for years, all kinds of stuff, not really hard drugs, but I was never on a psychotropic, prescription or anything like that, but I would do LSD, and, I did mushrooms all the time, and, all kind, because that just feels natural to us. But we have the ability to create that type of magical energy in our daily lives by engaging these energies in a powerful way and feeling the joy and the love from how the universe, our angels, guides, and ancestors respond to our efforts and our energies in that a way, as opposed to us always reacting to feeling hurt, abandoned, and abused, and that backlash from that feels so hard. Speaking of which, the backlash of the scorpion. Okay, that tail is the opposition to Taurus. And so for me and other Taurus moon signs such as myself, that is the dysregulating energy that opposes that Taurian energy of, remember, comfort, security, beauty. We like balance, we like the truth. We like authenticity. And what dysregulates us is when there is a darkness beneath that truth, that Scorpio, that dark hole that we don't want to look at because it will disrupt, it will unground us. Okay? It will completely uproot us. And Taurans are very, that bull is grounded, strong on the ground. And that Scorpion energy is always very disruptive with its hard truths that we experience as disrupting our comfort. MDT is an inconvenient truth. Okay? Seeing our home environment, no matter how beautiful and comfortable it is, as mine always was growing up. My mother made a beautiful, comfortable environment, comfortable neighborhood, comfortable, and the truth of it was that I was very, very uncomfortable there for many reasons. The truth of the matter is that there was a shadow of loneliness and alienation because of how hard and how many hours my mother had to work away from me in order to sustain that environment as a single parent. That was the truth. Although the material environment was beautiful and comfortable, the internal emotional environment was in shambles because I really needed the comfort of my mother in this majority white environment. Even though I was taught to be very proud of myself as a Black person, and she always bought me black dolls when she had to order them months in advance of Christmas and my birthday. I never had a white doll. I always looked at myself and everything because of my mother. And why I can speak to you with such clarity and directness and truth now is because of my mother, making sure that I knew who I was and I was always in alignment with who I am. But beneath all of that, though, I had to confront the fact that I wanted and I needed the truth of who she was in order to complete my own story. Scorpio's energy is that deep energy of truth, but it's also that backlash, that scorpion's tail. It is that truth that doesn't make any sense because it's a soul truth that cannot be denied. And that is what was always dysregulating me, was this closed off part of my mother from her own issues of MDT. She's highly sensitive as well. And that was always closed off from me. And so although I was given the tools to survive in the world, that shell, that exoskeleton of the scorpion, that internal piece that is always molting and always shedding, caused a vulnerability within me that was always triggering me because I didn't want to grow. I didn't want to molt. I didn't want the shell to come off because I didn't have the tools for that part. I didn't have the tools to withstand the rigidity and the abrasiveness of my emotional state without that completion, okay? And so generally, when we're talking about what we need to do as Taurus Moon people, is we need to anticipate that there will always be deeper levels of truth and deeper levels of comfort and stability and security that we will need and that we will seek in order to feel comfortable, in order to feel secure, in order to feel beautiful and beauty in the world and within ourselves. We will always be triggered to go deeper into that. And so we anticipate it. And so I'm always looking for beauty in things, like in the drive today, I'm always taking the beautiful route. Whether it's the long way around or whatever like that, I have to anticipate, especially if it's a stressful day or stress or things that I know are going to be pressing me to go beyond my normal daily capacity to handle stress. That means I'm going to press the day to bring me more and more comfort, more and more beauty, more and more truth and authenticity. So I may plan for a great, beautiful, funny afternoon with a movie and dinner for that day. For that day, I might plan for there to be a beauty treatment at some point in that schedule, mani-pedi, massage, something. I may right in the middle of it, And so those are things that we have to do. And based on your personality, which is getting more into your sun sign and your ascendant. But what works for you with regard to how to anticipate and manage those things for emotional balance, okay? The Scorpion moon sign is not really in touch with its truth. As deep and as profound as Scorpio is in going into the soul matter of things and experiencing every type of emotion it can possibly experience. That's what Scorpio is. Scorpio rapidly goes through change, rapidly goes through metamorphosis, that molting and that recalibration is constantly happening. And in that process, the actual core of who and what it is and who and what it actually feels, it gets lost, especially without this awareness that we're talking about today. It gets lost. And so the Scorpio moon sign is the moon sign that is said to be in its detriment, or it is said to be an afflicted moon. We're already talking about a Saturn moon that's afflicted by Saturn, but particularly when it's in the sign of Scorpio, it's a double affliction, and by itself without Saturn, it's afflicted. Scorpio moon is unaware of itself. It lacks self-awareness. It may know about everything and everybody else and how every emotion feels and be extremely insightful with regard to that, but with regard to itself, not so much. And this is very necessary at this point of the soul's development in order for it to have this mirror, this holographic mirror. And so the lifetime is about looking through this holographic mirror in order to confirm things that this soul has experienced through many, many lifetimes. Remember, we're talking about soul depth here with Scorpio. It's confirming things that this soul may have thought, but now it knows. And so confirmation comes oftentimes from outside of ourselves, confirming something that is within. It is a form of soul confirmation. And so it's not the type of external validation that we often talk about we produce as a result of our insecurities we have because of MDT. It is a kind of external validation that is like doing an oracle reading, and you are asking Great Mother what she wants you to know about something that you already have an inkling about. Like, I already have an inkling that I do need a vacation that is going to take me into deeper depths of self-love, for example. as I was sharing before. And the reading would confirm that, or she might confirm something else that's similar to that. You know, that's the type of external validation that that Scorpio moon sign is really seeking this lifetime. And so that is its default. Scorpio feels good when it receives those confirmations, and it does often and throughout the day and throughout its experience. That's why a lot of people perceive Scorpio moon signs as kind of know-it-alls, or kind of early, they get early warning, early signs on things, which is really, again, a result of this experience of the holographic field that they're having. You know, things just come up for them that are outside of the mundane mechanizations of hours and minutes. It's a spiritual time that they receive information. And this is very affirming to a Scorpio. And again, this is why they can be perceived as conceited or whatever. But it's because they really do know. Now, there can be some spiritual bypass with that as well, which we see especially with Scorpio moon sign with MDT, when we're looking at this axis with the opposing Taurus. The stabilization is this confirmation. Therefore, the destabilization has to do with that Taurian energy of comfort, security, and beauty. When Scorpio is not experiencing the comfort level that affirms how it feels, that's when we experience that Scorpio moon sign energy that's really antsy, really indecisive, and is really hard to deal with. It's hard for them to deal with themselves because there is an internal discomfort. The dysregulation of not feeling an internal sense of beauty, of self-acceptance, of self-security, a sense of self-groundedness is very challenging for Scorpio. Even though it is a fixed sign, with MDT, that sense of security within oneself brought about by the discomfort of MDT is just like this loud noise of this little car going by me. The emotions that Scorpio goes through, when it goes through those difficult emotions, they're particularly loud. They're particularly dysregulating. They're particularly profound. And it's really hard for them to return to a sense of equilibrium. It's really difficult. And so in order to release, because we all have to release when we have these types of difficulties, there's that tail. You know, there's a lashing out. Oftentimes this lashing out is a passive aggressive behavior. And so what Scorpions have to do is anticipate the discomfort they will invariably have on a daily basis as they go through these emotional mechanizations, as they receive these spiritual insights and downloads and perceptions, that there will be some discomfort related to those things, and that what is going to make them feel comfortable is having the spiritual confirmation that what they have received is correct. Because the world is not going to confirm it for them. Whether it's because people, again, are perceiving them as know-it-all, and then when you perceive somebody as know-it-all, oftentimes there's jealousy there. You know, there's an acrimonious, whatever it is, whether it's just general disdain or whatever. Scorpions get a lot of backlash, which is what makes them behave that way. And so it's not something that feels good. And so the emotional stability in this nexus for them is going to come from having a daily spiritual practice that gives them that spiritual confirmation of their internal beauty, of them becoming comfortable with what they know despite the external confirmation from the material world, that allows them to experience that security of self without that material confirmation from others, especially the mother. So Scorpio really is a karmic spot for MDT as it relates to the inner work that must be done in order to sustain or to gain the comfort level necessary to manage the intuitive energy that's carried, because it can be extremely dysregulating. Now, this is true for all water moon signs. So again, we're talking about the moon, the waxing and the waning of the waves of the ocean. So that should be no surprise. Gemini moon sign. Gemini is air. Gemini is about our thoughts, our communication, our comprehension of things specifically, our efforts that we make in the world, things that we try, things that we attempt in order to achieve specific things is Mercury. That go for it mentality is what Mercury is really about. Mercury is mercurial. It wants to make moves, okay? It wants to communicate what it's about, how it feels in the moment, particularly. When we're talking about the moon, we're talking about our emotions and our feelings. When we're talking about Mercury, we're talking about, what we think, particularly, about those feelings. And so Gemini moon people are people who love to talk, are people who have their emotional stability in that expression of self, in that ability to move and to be able to transform their thoughts in the moment, their experience, their location. My mind is here and it can move here. It's very important that information is available to be absorbed all day, every day. And so when we're talking about Gemini moon, we're talking about a high intelligence. We're talking about an emotional stability that comes as a result of being able to communicate that intelligence. Now, Gemini moon really doesn't care whether other people appreciate it or not. That's nice, but the point is airing it out. That's the emotional stability. What opposes Gemini is Sagittarius, which is fire energy, and it is also high intelligence, but it's more about the learning. It's more about the application of that knowledge. It's more about, instead of the short distance and moving and mobility from here to there, it's more about what we're talking about and getting from point A of the emotional comfort and dysregulation cycle to point B, to managing that, to balancing that. Sagittarius is about that process and about mastering that process, okay? So whereas Gemini moon might be the gossip, Sagittarius moon sign is not just about airing the information, it's about the wisdom of the information. It doesn't have to be spoken. It can be written, also with Gemini, but with Sagittarius, it has to be learned. And so Gemini stabilizes through this axis by learning new information in a way that they can use it to stabilize their emotions. That's what we're all doing. But for Gemini moon sign, if they are not attempting to transform the gossip energy, which is an energy, gossip is pejorative, but we all do it. We all talk about things, and we talk about people, and we talk about whatever, just information, but it's not confirmed. Gossip is unconfirmed information. If Gemini moon is not working to confirm that information from an emotional, experiential place, that is what I've experienced, from my experience, this is what I know. If they're not working to go into that knowing space, then they will always be dysregulated with information overload, whether it be from their own absorption of information, which is most likely, or from others bombarding them with questions and information that they just cannot, they cannot make sense of. You know, so for example, a Gemini moon sign with MDT, who is the one doing all of the reading and watching all of the YouTube videos and doing all the stuff with the astrology, but not looking up their moon sign, not studying what it means, you know, not following along according to their own experience, but just sucking it up for the sake of sucking it up. They're going to always be looping around the same issues that they have answers for if they would just direct their informational absorption into a wise agenda that would help them interpret the information in a useful way. They have to anticipate that they're going to have Sagittarian experiences. They're going to have sages. That's Sagittarius. They're going to have gurus. They're going to have teachers, people that always come into their life. They're going to always have people like that in their life. And they love it. You know, they love learning everything, but they don't hold to something. That doesn't mean that they have to hold to any specific religion or whatever like that doesn't resonate with them, but they're going to have to find something that does. They're going to have to identify something within themselves that does for the moment. Gemini is short distance travel. It's from here, and then I feel like it here, and then I feel like this here, and I feel like this there, and I might make it to point B, but we'll see. Okay? And that short distance travel, it doesn't really matter, because if you don't make it in the car, you can walk there. But to balance that energy so that you're not looping around this craziness, you have to have a game plan, which is point B, which is anticipating that I am going to have these gurus. I'm going to have, if it's not an actual physical guru in a robe walking around, it's going to be somebody on my job who admire their intelligence. It's going to be somebody I meet at church. It's going to be somebody that I start dating, or their family or relative, or something that I just really vibe with. And for this moment, I'm vibing with what they're saying. I don't have to be a devotee, but my devotion is to myself and how I feel and what I resonate with. And my point B is emotional regulation. What can I get from this information right now that is going to inform my emotional dysregulation so that I can make it to point B, so that I can balance? That is what Gemini moon sign has to do. It has to use the information for that purpose. Does that make sense? It has to use it for that person, for the purposes of emotional wisdom, and insight. The wisdom that will bring the insight to balance itself and allow it to breathe and relax. You know, Gemini tends to have a lot of fun doing that, which is the challenge for Gemini. You know, we all have our challenges and we all have our benefits and pros and cons and disadvantages and this is sort of thing. And for Gemini, that's fun. Mercury is the childlike planet. You see Mercury in someone's chart, you're seeing a little boy, you're seeing a little girl, you're seeing, you know, it's very childlike, and it likes doing that. And so it's not like it's an energy that feels bad until it is bad. And when it gets bad, it gets really bad. It gets the mind, because again, Mercury is that intellect, really gets twisted up when it's bad. So you want to anticipate that's the road that you're on. It's going to go that way because Saturn is there. It's going to limit your fun on that. It's going to put obstacles and blocks in your way on you enjoying that. And many of you listening, you're at a stage in your life where it's less and less fun. It's less and less because as we get older, Saturn rules more of our lives. Okay, that's why as we get older, our energy is limited. The gate of our walk is limited. There are obstacles in where we can go and what we can do. Saturn, the older we get, Saturn rules. And there's different phases of our life that different planets rule. Saturn rules old age, okay? And so with this awareness, you know that, okay, what Saturn's wanting me to do is to become the sage. Saturn is wanting me to become the guru of my own life. Saturn is needing me to pay attention to how I use all this information I'm gaining every day. For Sagittarius moon sign, that wisdom, that long projected foresight that allows for long distance travel and spiritual experiences far from home, that enlightenment that one gets traveling to India or vice versa. That's that Sagittarius energy. That Sagittarius moon sign people are very gregarious people. It's an energy of knowing that everything's going to be all right. It's a fun-loving energy. It loves to connect to others. It's that fiery, inspirational energy. And the stability comes in those very things. It comes in connecting with others, but mainly as an inspiration to others. It is compelled to inspire, to teach, to share wisdom, and to do so in a loving way that is not holier than thou necessarily, but in an invitational way. That's that invitation to go abroad, that invitation to experience something new. It's that kind of default emotional basis. And so that's what it likes. It likes to feel that way. It likes to experience those things. And the dysregulation comes when there is no invitation to experience something new and to learn something new, but it's always the same old thing. This loop is very discouraging for Sagittarius moon sign, but what they tend to do, because they have such a spiritual bent, is the spiritual bypass. They tend to pretend like it doesn't bother them as much as it does. And that gets them in an even deeper and a darker space where their energy can really be sucked by others because they're still trying to be that inspiration when they are actually needing to take care of themselves. And that's where the axis with Gemini, anticipating that they're needing more information, anticipating that they're going to need to kind of modify where they are and what they're doing to have a better experience, comes in. That's where that really comes in, because, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What am I doing? I hope I'm on the right street. I really do. I think I've moved to the wrong street. Up here talking about Sagittarius and jumping around with Gemini, and going different routes because it's beautiful and everything. Sometimes, you you have to plan for these things. And as much as I did plan for it, I didn't plan to get confused at this particular point, but that's okay. If it's not right, it's not right. It's no big deal. And I think I see an opportunity to change lanes if I need to. So I think I might need to do that real quick. Yeah, I know. Yeah. See how easy that was, and see that's the anticipation. And so it's in the back of your mind what you're working with all the time. I knew I was working with that, and I knew that I'm doing this scenic route, and so I'm not sure how things are going to line up because I'm not going the usual quick route. But because I was in the back of my mind, I could catch myself. When I got that kind of feeling once again, when I was kind of intuiting, I might be going the wrong way here, get back on track. And that's what it's all about. It's all about always getting back on track. This course correction, because you have to realize we've been in a loop of behavior that Saturn is now coming through in this lifetime, and it is crossing that soul memory with a big old boulder in the road, and it's saying, "Nuh-uh, you ain't going this way no more." And I'm gonna make sure, because your mother's ship is gonna land on this boulder, and you're gonna have to spend your life getting around it in order to change your direction, your behavior. It's time to do something new. So the new thing for Sagittarius is to relax that kind of sage, kind of knowing and wisdom and wise and whatever, kind of relax that a little bit and go into the place of, what is it that I need to know now? No, I am not feeling like I want to inspire right now. I'm really feeling worn out, and I'm really feeling like I can't do this like I used to, and feel inspired myself. What is it that I need to know? What is it that I need to do? That's that new Gemini information. What is it that I need to study, to learn? What new information do I need to consume? That Gemini. Where do I need to go? Do I need to go to a new group? Do I need to whatever? What is it that I need to share? What is it that I need to say? Do I need to write a book and get it all out? What is it that I need? And that's what Sagittarius uses and anticipates in order to balance its needs. So when it gets that feeling, it automatically goes into journaling. It automatically goes into speaking. It automatically goes into wanting to be inspired by new information. And so it will have a lot of inspirational music available, or places around town that it can go in order to be filled up, whether it's workshops or groups or on the internet, podcast or whatever, to fill itself up, not just for it to have a bunch of useless information, but it's using the Gemini energy in order to balance the lack of inspiration that it is feeling in its life around the wisdom that it has. Whether that wisdom is old and stale and needs to be revived, or it has not been shared. and it needs to be released in some way that will make it feel good. And so this is why it's so important that we focus on ourselves. Refocusing and allowing ourselves the time and space to do that is what heals us. Okay, moving on. Cancer, the mother sign. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So every sign is ruled by planet. Just like Gemini is ruled by Mercury, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, Taurus ruled by Venus, Aries ruled by Mars. Cancer is ruled by the moon, the mother. It is the mother sign, the fourth sign, and FYI, your fourth house, which is counted from your ascendant, be it your actual birth ascendant or your moon sign, is also a location where we see MDT when it has Saturn aspects. Now, we'll get into that later. But for now, know that those of us who have Cancer moon sign, this is another water sign. Like Scorpio has that water element we were talking about in terms of deep emotions. Cancer is a very deep emotion, that maternal emotion, that care-giving emotion, and that care-needing emotion. It really does need a lot of care. When it does not receive it from the mother, it is lost. And the way it finds itself is by caring for others. And it can become lost in that. What Cancer needs is to be able to feel at home. It needs to be able to feel a sense of the maternal in itself. It needs to feel like it is caring for others and is doing what others need. It needs to feel a sense of great mother energy, that Holy Spirit energy, that wise maternal energy. It needs to feel that it has that. And so when it's dysregulated, when it's unstabilized, the opposing sign of Capricorn is all about work, achievement, overcoming obstacles. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. It's all about overcoming obstacles. And so that goat going up the rocky hill that looks impossible that it could go up, it's never enough. Cancer feels like it's never enough. It's never loving enough. It's never a good enough mother. It's never feels like it's at home enough. And so it tries harder and harder and harder, and it goes deeper and deeper into that watery emotion. In order to balance that, it really does have to work on creating the home that it wants. It really has to work on being the mother that others need, not the mother that they needed, but the mother that others need, to the point where a lot of times MDT Cancer moon signs may be attempting to mother others who don't even want them to mother them, to take care of them, to be under their wing, so to speak, or to be mentored by them, but they'll just take them in. And so that kind of, taking over, people and situations, and having a illusion that others are taking care of them, when in actuality they are not. They are not caring for them. They are not loving them. All of that gets thrown off. And the balance comes in anticipating that whenever they feel that way, instead of jumping to that internal critic, Okay, that's where we get the mother is very critical, is what's really happening. It's not so much about the criticism, it's about the misguided attempt at doing what we're doing here today, which is to balance that axis. So a lot of times when we're criticized by our mothers, or we as mothers are criticizing our children, what we're trying to do is set straight what we perceive to be an imbalance, but we don't have the tools to do it. And so we use the misguided tools that we've been given. And that is what a Cancer moon sign person will do to themselves. They will oftentimes be deluded again into this thinking that others care for them, or that their mother is not abandoning, the mother is not abusing, the mother is caring for them. And so they have a greater tendency to be in MDT denial oftentimes. And as a result of that, they don't understand when they are perpetuating this behavior, why others are reacting to them the way that they are. Others are not in denial. Others are seeing that, no, this isn't caring for me, smothering me and telling me every other day and every other minute, how things should be and how you think, But once they realize that, and the source of their dissatisfaction and internal dysregulation and needing to prove that they are good, that they are loving, that they are maternal, that point where that becomes painful, once they realize that that's painful because they are not working, they're not doing the internal work to make themselves feel cared for. The first step, again, is acknowledgement. If you are being maternally abandoned and abused, that's the first step to healing, is admitting that, so that you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So that's what Cancer moon signs have to do. They have to employ that Capricorn energy of scaling the impossible scale of internal awareness, so that they can feel that heightened sense of maternal love that they know they possess. In order to experience it, they have to do the work. They think that just because they have this emotional default of this loving Holy Spirit within them, that they embody this, that exempts them from having to examine and challenge themselves on how this energy is being experienced by them and being used by them. The balance comes in that examination, so that they can be really clear about what that means. What does that maternal energy mean for me? And how is that energy being expressed? And having the wherewithal to then refocus where the energy has been, with a sense of self-forgiveness, maternal energy gone inward, self-compassion, okay? Self-regard, self-acknowledgement of self-need, self-love, in order to wash away that criticism, that resentment, that judgment, to allow room for self-curiosity, self-exploration, self-confirmation. That's how the Cancer moon sign does it. Okay, so now we're talking about the sign of the sun. Just as the moon rules Cancer, Mother, Holy Spirit, our moods, emotions, that great mother energy, great father energy of the sun. The next sign is Leo. This moon sign has that energy, just as Cancer moon sign has the mother energy. Leo moon sign has father energy. So Leo moons who have mama drama trauma are people with a great deal of emotional confidence. So it's similar to Cancer in that way. It's similar in the way of having the advantage of great mother, father, God energy within it. And that creative primal power within it, which can work for and or against us. Because again, we're talking about our power, how we're using it in dealing with the crises, and dealing with the crises of healing mama drama trauma and what all goes with that. So the sign and symbology of Great Mother, Father, God is the yin and the yang. It has to do with the creative source, of the yin, the inspiration for life, the dark matter, the center of the cosmos. It has to do with that energy being activated by the response of the sun, and this response creating action. Okay, so this action is all about Leo moon sign, the confidence that Leos have. We talk about the entertainer vibe, the center of attention vibe. That all has to do with that great father energy. Okay, this moon sign is generous. Okay, it's like the rays of the sun. It's magnetic. It's bright. It's noticed when it enters a room. It's passionate, desirous, because it's been inspired. And as we learn more about the moon signs, we'll learn about the influence and the impact of the previous sign in the wheel. The previous sign is Cancer, okay? That inspiration for the Leo action. It is a very appreciative energy. Leo energy appreciates life and goes into it with gusto, a very regal kind of vitality this inner energy has, and it also has a very optimistic instinct. However, of course, with Saturn Moon restricting those qualities, what we often see is a kind of overestimating of one's abilities, a kind of bravado, a false sense of confidence, and even appreciation. We, as Leo moon signs, can have this kind of all press is good press kind of attitude. So whether the light that we're bringing into the room is an inspirational light or it has a twinge of darkness, it doesn't matter. As long as we're being seen, as long as we're being heard, because of that neediness that naturally comes from MDT. So with this moon sign, the problem with stability has to do with those very characteristics that this great father energy heralds: being snubbed, being disregarded, not being cared for and cultivated by the mother. The results of what happens very directly, very clearly seen with Leo moon signs. The other moon signs can kind of be clandestine with the effects, okay? As old souls, we can kind of shuffle along and kind of stumble along and limp along in life and kind of pretend that everything's okay and put up a good face. With Leo moon sign, that healthy expression takes on the kind of neediness that we see in the performance world, the celebrity world, where anything will be done for attention. Anything will be done. Anything will be done. Anything, anything, anything. And the results of that being a lot of exaggerated pain and even death that we see a lot of times because of that. It wants to shine. It wants to express this optimistic instinct, but without the cultivation of it, it's just raw. This instinct is raw. It has not been molded into something with grace and the beauty that a nurturing, loving, caring, present, protecting mother would give. And so it seeks that in a way of demanding, like a father would. And because that stability for the Leo to be seen and to be heard and to be recognized is first and foremost. All children have that, but that's first and foremost for them. They need to be generous. That's great father energy, the rays of the sun. They need to be charismatic and warm. So whether it's been nurtured and molded to something that accentuates the positivity and the optimism of that instinct or not, it's going to do that. And when that need becomes neediness and their every waking hour, now with all of us, we have a neediness. And we may and often remain throughout our entire lives very unconscious of how we manipulate our environment. We've talked about that before in the Daily Practice podcast, of how we will create these fantasy worlds to support that need and create a cast of characters around us to fulfill those needs. And when they don't, we get upset and all of that dynamic. Leos don't really bother with that. They will become the actor and very consciously begin to act out a life that creates a stage for what they want. And this is a very shaky foundation. And this is what they're unconscious of. They may be very conscious of all of the doings that they're doing to achieve what they need to achieve, and they need to be because they are doing it in the material world. They're doing it in a world of limitation. They're doing it within the confines of the rules of Saturn, which have to do with the realities of life. And so they're conscious of what they're doing. They're rational in the sense of this is what I'm creating. I'm going to do this. I'm going to strategize to get this. But it comes from a shaky foundation of insecurity that will not be sustained. And so there will be a period in their lives, if they survive this, where there's a reckoning. And if they have any desire whatsoever to course correct sincerely, again, a lot of times with this spiritual bypass and all of our moon signs, we have our certain brand of spiritual bypass. We talked about it with Cancer, with this mothering nature. And so, we pretend that that's going to forgive a host of evils in terms of trying to control people. And we talked about the spiritual bypass with Gemini, with, just information, and not really using it to do what we need to do to evolve from pain to purpose. We all have our brand, and the brand for the sun moon sign with this spiritual bypass very much has to do with the pretense of spirituality. Just the out and out conscious, I'm pretending so people can see me in the center performing the acts of a devotee, performing the acts of a guru, performing the acts of a teacher. They can remember what a spiritual teacher is saying verbatim, like a script, and perform it better than the teacher. So this, in the material world that we live in, seems like a great thing in the short term because it is effective to achieve the end of the attention. But always there is a crash. It's inevitable. Because the foundation always falls. It always falls. And many times, these old souls, because they know that intuitively that it's going to crash, they will do it even more just to enjoy it while they can, because they know it's going to crash. They know it's a very interesting moon sign to work with. And depending on its other aspects, as all of these moon signs have their own aspects with regard to other planets and where they're positioned and how they're working and their configuration in terms of how they are working with each other in the chart to create the unique soul personality, where the sun is, where the ascendant sign is. All of these. Mars is another energy. When we talk about Scorpio and Aries, that general of the sun is the soul, and the general is the one that takes the commands from the sun to get things done. And what does the sun want to do? The soul is here for a specific purpose. And with MDT, our purpose is to heal this. It doesn't have to be this lifetime, but it follows us throughout our soul journey until we do. This moon sign intuitively will not address MDT in order to experience those ends. Leo moon signs, when they, like in Al-Anon, many of us have been in Al-Anon. I know I have, because, you have Al-Anon is for people who love addicts. And we all have our own degree of addiction ourselves, with alcohol and whatever. But in Al-Anon, you learn that you did not cause, create, or you cannot control, the 3 C's, someone else's addiction. And that's really kind of how we have to deal with MDT. We, in relationship to others who have MDT, specifically our mothers, we did not cause it, we cannot control it, and we cannot cure it. With Leo moon sign, the opposing sign in dealing with this axis, this particular crisis of attention at all cost with MDT, is Saturn. We know it's going to limit that at some point. With sincerity, the healing balance comes with the opposing sign of Aquarius, which is the intelligent giver. The intelligent giver is altruistic in the spiritual sense, that it understands the laws of abundance, and that which is very different from the laws of poverty, which have to do with there isn't enough. And so many times people consider themselves giving to someone when they have given from their excess. That is a poverty mentality. I'm going to feed the poor, so let me feed my family first, and then whatever's left over, I'll give to the poor. That's poverty. Those are the laws of poverty, and most of us operate under that. Aquarius operates on the laws of abundance. Whatever it receives, it gives first, and then it takes what remains. Not to the point of its own poverty, but to the point of its own abundance. And so it's an intuitive thing when you receive something of great value, an inheritance or a check or whatever, and you just intuit X amount. And you don't second guess it. You give the X amount to where your heart needs it to go, and you fully enjoy the rest of it. You don't spend it on things you don't want. You don't spend it on things that you don't need. You spend it completely on things that you love and that you enjoy, and invest the rest. It's a completely different mentality. And so this abundance mentality balances the Leo moon sign in the sense that it allows the Leo moon to anticipate there will be times, and most likely it's going to be in the next 2 minutes, where I'm not going to feel like I'm the center of attention. And I am going to need a fix. I'm going to need something to console me and to soothe me in that moment so that I feel that rush that I need. And the action, the karma, the step that the Leo moon sign needs to take is to give that talent, give that smile, give that light, share that love, share that joke with someone who they intuit needs it, as opposed to looking at that person that needs that and trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to pull even more energy from this person who's in need before I give it to them by money, by some form of one-upmanship or whatever, as opposed to that, to balance my need within me, to heal myself in this moment. I'm going to say, have you heard the one about such and such and such and such, such and such and such and such and such, and not expect a laugh, not expecting to control the outcome of the exchange, but expecting to heal themselves from getting out of their system that ray of light, that optimism, that generosity that they need to release in a healthy way, in an abundant way, in a giving way. Molding and nurturing themselves into a place of grace and mercy. This is how the Leo moon sign heals that need to activate upon itself and its environment, its power, its influence, that great father energy. And we see with the Aquarius moon sign, this being a moon sign that balances its internal energy with what I call this abundant mentality, because Aquarius is the second to the last sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by Saturn. Capricorn and Aquarius are the two last signs before Pisces that end the zodiac wheel. And I call these two signs, Aquarius and Capricorn, the gateposts, the pillars of the gates of heaven. And it's kind of like, you used to go to the club, they're not so popular these days. I guess people still go, but I know back in the day, that was the thing, going to the club. And you have bouncers out there. And the really big clubs, the really, multi-level clubs or whatever like that, they'd have bouncers on each side when you went in. And, one would check your ID or whatever like that, and the other one would just be standing there to see if somebody gonna act the fool, so they'd double team you if they needed to. That's what Aquarius and Capricorn signs are. They filter us, ruled by Saturn. Each zodiac sign, the 12 signs, are ruled by one of the 9 planets. Aquarius and Capricorn are ruled by Saturn. All of the 12 signs, divided by 2, they're 6. All of them are ruled, 2 of them are ruled by a planet, except for Cancer and Leo. One planet rules Cancer, the moon. One planet rules Leo, the sun. Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, and Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter, so on and so forth. We'll get more into this as we go along. But this is important at this point of Aquarius moon sign because as one of the gatekeepers that makes the soul sift through its karma before entering the gates of heaven at the time of disincarnation is that we are examined on the mentality that we chose to operate on in this lifetime. And it's not a judgment that says you're good or you're bad. It's an equation, it's a divine equation that imprints upon the universe how much yin, how much yang we have, how balanced it is, how imbalanced it is, in order to determine what our next incarnation needs to be in order to enrich our soul experience. It's not about making us better or making us worse. It's about enrichment. It's about evolution. It's about greater and greater experience. And so what this sifting through is with Saturn, with Aquarius, particularly with Aquarius moon sign, it's about that self-honesty, telling ourselves the truth, the yin and the yang. Am I more of a submissive, observant type, or am I more of an active type in the world? Am I consciously aware of this, that sunlight, sun, Leo energy, or am I not so aware of this, but this is how I operate without question, lunar energy? This is really kind of the capacity of Aquarius. This is the water jug. And we tend to, as material beings, focus on the human being that is holding the jug, usually a woman, full of water and pouring it out. The Aquarian energy is the ability for the water to be molded in any way in the jug. And so life is a series of events that molds us into deeper and deeper levels and experiences of yin and yang and of balancing ourselves with this great mother, great father energy. It decodes macro patterns of cultural experience, linguistic experience, geographic experience. It's a calculus that is used and applied to our next lifetime, which is a cosmic calculus that brings our next birth chart. And so this sifting of Aquarius alone is very responsive to the beat of the soul's own drum. So Aquarius moon sign is very much about that. It intuits its own unique soul genius within itself and others in order to be able to pour from itself the core, the essence, the truth of itself into the truth of others. With MDT, this moon sign is often the domain of the anarchists. They have this balance of the watcher, the questioner, the disruptor, and as a result, they feel like they're outsiders, very lonely, and this positioning grants them the vantage point of a very conscious, activated observation, a very high level of yin-yang balance, and their emotional stability is detachment. I've learned a great deal throughout my healing process from Aquarius moon sign people. Their emotional stability is emotional detachment because They cannot pour into themselves without it. Aquarius moon signs who are dysregulated are always very disruptive and always causing real kind of senseless mayhem in their environment and in the world, because they're not self-expressed. And so they're trying to express themselves in the world. MDT did not allow them to take care of themselves in the way that they needed to. In other words, it did not allow them the emotional detachment that they needed in order to take care of themselves. There's a bunch of craziness and chaos around them all the time. Without the presence, protection, and provision of their mothers, they were in situations, in environments, at home, communities, schools, wherever they were, that did not allow them the time and space they needed to observe their environment in a peaceful, detached manner. That's food for them. That's nurturing for them. And once they're filled with this information, from this vantage point, they are able to intuit the needs of their environment and mold themselves to those needs willingly, in full capacity, fully empowered to feed into that environment. That's their stability that was denied them. And so since it was denied them, they don't know how to cultivate that outside of trying to externalize, create that in the world through that kind of antisocial behavior. Now, lunar Aryans want to destroy or limit social structures harmfully as their highest expression in this state. So what motivates them is a crisis of freedom. After doing this over a period of time, they feel blocked and locked into this lifestyle. They've become known for doing this, and they've maybe even been in prison for doing it. You know, who comes to mind is the computer guy who got put in prison in Ecuador, and he was telling all the secrets and Wikipedia or something. But Assange, and he couldn't get himself out of it. You know, it ended up, you know, he had pretty good intentions, but after you have such a history of doing that haphazardly with no reason, rhyme or reason, and then suddenly you try to develop one and evolve out of it, it's kind of hard to convince people because you're trying to heal yourself. And the rapid way to do that, which is what we're discussing here, is to free yourself through the axis of Leo, your opposing moon sign, and using that Leo energy, that great father power, to help others, okay? And through freeing yourself first. So Leo is independent, it's individual, it is ruled by the sun, the singular sign ruled by the sun. To offer yourself in partnership as an independent person, whether it be in a romantic partnership or it be in a business partnership, but just very clearly, freely approaching it in an emotionally detached way to observe the dynamics between you and the other person. Or not being in a relationship per se, although that is your ideal stabilizing situation, allowing yourself to observe your dynamic with a sibling or with a friend, a cohort, a coworker, and Instead of denying feelings of rage, jealousy, greed, these feelings that are a part of the MDT conditioning, observing them with the light of the sun, giving yourself the clarity that you need to freely embrace who you are and what your needs are. And as the Leo, fulfilling those needs freely so that the observations that you have can feed into your natural capacity to intuit what the needs are in your environment. In other words, taking a step back, giving yourself the time and space that you need to recognize your own needs and fulfill them in relationship to your environment. Okay, so maybe there has been a lot of acting out and maybe you have gotten some benefit from that, but like everything else, Saturn will limit it over time. And so to kind of roll that back and kind of step that back and say, well, what I've really been needing is just, some time to myself and nature. And maybe, renting a place, someplace out in the country. And maybe just walking around, getting to kind of know the community and invariably seeing something that interests you, your freedom. What is it, fly fishing or painting or drawing or something? And invariably there'll be people or someone around that you are expressing yourself, you are pursuing your interests, but through your observation of your environment and perhaps a casual relationship, you begin to pour what that natural honesty within you has to offer in its highest expression to others. And so the anarchist becomes the alchemist in your own life and in the lives of others. That's the healing axis for Aquarius Moon. And it can be a bit complex because, like all air moons, lunar Aquarians with this emotional detachment have the default of denial of feelings and jealousy and rage and greed more deeply than others because the emotional suppression can go deeper than others because of the water. We like to say in astrology that Scorpio is the lake, that fixed water sign that has the rocks beneath it and the mud and the marsh. We say Scorpio is the river. Okay, it's the river that runs through the rocks and that marsh and, all of that. And Cancer is the lake, that placid, you don't really see what's going on underneath it. It looks real calm, like that great mother energy, but underneath you got all this stuff going on. And Pisces is the ocean, the deep ocean. The Aquarius moon sign can falsely believe themselves to be above others, because of this kind of denial. Now, Aquarian is not water, which is why I wanted to say water, and it's often confused with water because of the Aquarian suffix. Aquarius, like the other air signs, although they don't go as deep in denial as the water signs, it is not a water sign. It is an air sign. Think of Aquarius in the zodiac as air. So don't think of it as aquare. Think of it as air. Aquarius. Although it's a little more of a surface denial, it's because all of the air signs, they kind of believe themselves to be kind of emotionally above others. Like Gemini, they don't feel the need, there's a need for them to go that deep. Libra, they don't feel that there's a need, for that when they really need it the most, because this repression, it always, like all of the signs, fails them. But it tends to be a type of a failure for the air signs where it's like abandoning themselves at the altar. you know, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. You abandon the person at the altar, and then you run to a foreign country, and then you assume another identity, and then you do this, and it's like, what the heck are you doing? You know, but they keep on reacting to these ideas in their mind, because that's what air signs are: ideas, thoughts, beliefs, communication, communicating these things, you know, actually kind of making them the follow through, particularly with a Saturn moon sign such as Aquarius, this Saturn moon. All of these are Saturn moon signs with MDT. But then here you have Saturn moon, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn as opposed to Gemini being ruled by Mercury and Libra being ruled by Venus. I hope that makes sense. I have a varied listening audience. Some people are my astrological mentors who listen, and all the way to people who have no idea what a moon sign is. So be sure to click below the moon sign not ephemeris, but the moon sign calculators. The ephemeris tells us what the planets are doing on a day-to-day basis based on the date. You key it in and tell you where the sun is, it'll tell you where the moon is. If you have a son or somebody, child in your family being born on a particular day, you can key it into an ephemeris and it'll tell you where every planet is that day, that moment, from that location. Okay, that's an ephemeris. But your birth chart is what you have once that's calculated. Once you calculate all that for the child, that's their birth chart. And that's what you want, is in your birth chart, it'll show where all your planets are. And we are talking about where the moon was when you were born. As we continue from the axes of Leo Aquarius, we conclude here with Virgo moon sign. And of course, its axis is Pisces. The nexus is the healing balance. And you want to be sure that you listen to this. I'll be sure to put the timestamps below as well for each axis, because it is a back and forth dance. It's a balance when we are in emotional crises. One of the things that the Oracle deck deals with is how, in our daily practice, we work with these raw emotions that come from our moon sign. Raw, the acronym, is being ready, having the readiness to do this. And that's why we're doing this today. You can't be ready without the knowledge. I've spent several years with this public work ministry, just in cultivating readiness. And so we are moving into a time where we really need to be solidly ready to do the daily work. That's R. A is the ability. You hear the word capacity coming out of my mouth all the time. And empaths have the capacity to understand these things, but the A is the ability. Are we able to do the work? Now, sometimes there are limitations that we discuss in these moon signs that seem insurmountable to overcome. But when you understand the axes and you see the opposite moon sign in that zodiac wheel is giving you a underlying power grid that you can access, you begin to really see the ability that you have. And I began to really see that working with the Oracle deck and these messages coming up with these chakras and these colors and these messages that were repeated over and over again, and seeing patterns. Speaking of these macro patterns, we have micro patterns and we have micro
macro patterns. The micro pattern is our moon sign, this repeated behavior that Saturn is trying to stop, this lunar behavior. Lunacy comes from lunar, moon. We keep doing it. This soul memory is just a default behavior. And Saturn is coming in and saying, oh, well, wait a minute. We've experienced this enough. That's why Great Mother gave us the mantra, we are dearly loved divine children of the Great Mother, Father God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. This is not a lifetime of judgment. It's not a lifetime of condemnation, and it is not a lifetime for us to be alienated and left alone. This is a lifetime for us to use our capacity that we've earned over our soul experience that we've had and to reapply the memories, because if we've lived so many lifetimes, we've experienced a lot of sadness too. There's been a lot of tragedy. It's been a lot of pain. But Saturn's saying enough. You're going to feel it, and you're not going to bypass it, for sure. I'm going to limit your ability to do that at all with MDT. Let's be clear. That ain't what we're talking about. You're not going to bypass it. But what you are going to do, W, is have to prove to yourself whether or not there is a willingness to move on. Those are our raw emotions. And with Virgo moon sign, we have a healing default. We are approaching life on a daily basis with an attitudinal stance of balance. And so we're always automatically looking for that and searching for that. So imagine being raised with MDT. Now, I say being raised with MDT when in actuality, never lose sight that MDT is a karma we're born with. It's in our birth chart. So it didn't just happen upon us. We're born with it, okay? But our material experience, the ego experience, cannot be denied. The ego, which is our biography, our name, our story, has a story about it, right? And so we can't pretend that doesn't exist. The soul has likely many memories of these types of experiences over lifetimes of MDT. This is yet another one. I know of at least 4, I think 5, including this one, through past life regressions of MDT. That's how I know we experience it until we have a willingness to address the raw emotion. The raw emotion of Virgo is very greatly wounded because of the abandonment and abuse experience with MDT because of its eye for detail. You know, all of us have our spiritual bypass. Well, that's kind of hard for Virgo. It's kind of hard. It does it at great expense to its physical health because of its eye for detail. It remembers everything. It's very skillful. It likes to work hard. And so whether we're on the reaction continuum of people pleasing or aggressive bully in terms of how we respond to MDT, they're going to do it with great skillfulness, as well as this creating within them such a dichotomy, because it's unhealthy, that there's this unconscious worry that cycles within them. And it activates a pain body that they think is them. They no longer identify with anything or anyone really outside of this pain body. And this is how they organize their time, They organize their world around the experiences and the reactions of this pain body. What is the pain body? The pain body are the thoughts and the judgments that they hold on to that have been projected onto them through MDT. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You're too much. You're always asking for something. Or why do you think you're so special? That kind of thing. That they begin to say, well, I'm not going to be like I'm too special if they're a people pleaser. If they react as a bully aggressor, they're going to be like, yes, I am. And I'm going to show you because of this, and this, and this, and X, Y, Z, and ABC, and all of that, 1, 2, 3 in between. So they organize their whole world around this kind of conjured self-deception. And so they have no trust in their intuition whatsoever. It doesn't exist. The pain body does. The pain body has all the power. And there's a really increased need. Now remember, Virgo is an earth sign. So all this stuff is grounded in them, okay? There's this intense need for emotional nourishment from pets and nature. And so we have people who have, dare I say, inappropriate relationships with pets. Inappropriate is anything that is beyond a friendly appreciation for a creature of God that you may have basic survival relationship with. You know, equating them above human beings type thing. You know, it's a real escape from the self with this. And at the same time, when this energy is balanced with Pisces, they express their affection very practically. And so this is where we see how the crises can be balanced and can be healed. They need to see the divine. They need to deeply dream into the Neptunian and the Jupiterian energy of Pisces. They need that deep oceanic dive. They need to scale the depths of their soul because they're so identified with the pain body. And that's what the inappropriate relationship with pets, that's how it comes into play, is draining them of their energy in order to release the pain. Okay? And that causing the pets a lot of problems, health problems and whatnot. That's a soul relationship as well, kind of an extension of the soul healing relationship. But this practicality that Pisces can bring the Virgo moon sign, for example, you know, it can allow them to do things like not buying flowers to dye, but to buy flowers to season your food, you know, like grow basil or marjoram or whatever as a food source. And this being a way to play out, to enact this balance in their lives. Okay, that's a way to kind of begin to recognize the healing process in life and the value of being detail-oriented, the value of caring for something that will care for you, but also has its own life, planted in its own self, that will continue to live in a healthy manner, even with the exchange from you. You know, not having to be the emotional crutch, so to speak, for you, but nourishing you in a way that sustains you as an individual. Now, because they prefer to repress their feelings they can strangely be soothed by the realities of life, you know, and reach this kind of Piscean elation by balancing their checkbook, doing something really practical like that, scratching things off the to-do list, those kind of practical things like that help them to pleasure this release of the pain body as a product of work rather than breaking away from it for some type of spiritual retreat. Those kinds of practical things is how the Virgo moon sign really can heal that need for security that stems for this lack of appreciation for their internal clarity, this internal clarity that causes the pain. They see very clearly and they feel very clearly what the abandonment and the abuse of the mother does to them. But because they are healers at heart, that is not something that they will do because of this kind of perfection that they're plagued with. And so they create this pain body, as I said. And so therefore this need for emotional nourishment from pets and nature. This is an earth sign. And so to balance this crisis, pulling from the Piscean nature, which is all about that deep oceanic capacity to love, that empathic, escapist, introspective, creative expression of Pisces. Often the kind of self-awareness that also swims in the direction of self-delusion, but really isn't a delusion as much as it is a deep dive beyond what is known, okay? Going into the unknown. This is more of like a kind of a fickleness. And there's a attachment to outcomes that Pisces can have, but it's based on the need for a positive outlet for the psychic energy that this Pisces has. It's a deep psychic energy that's very positive, that's very spiritual. And so those are the outcomes that it seeks. Those are the outcomes that it expects. And when it doesn't receive that, it dives even deeper many times. And that's where we see what is perceived as delusion, etc. But they need time. At that moment, it may appear to be delusional, and oftentimes it can be. But give it time, and they will define their emotional stance, their emotional boundaries, and that sort of thing. That's a healthy Pisces moon. It's dreamy at best and delusional at worst. The dreaming of the astral, the perception of the beauty of the world. This is the home of geniuses and empaths. Pisces is our home. Beyond those eternal gates of Capricorn and Aquarius, Pisces is heaven. So that's the height of our experience in material form. Being in touch with the unconscious, allowing ourselves to reveal what the best is and can be for ourselves. So this empathic nature allows the Pisces to habitually cast itself in the role of the rescuer, the healer too, the artist. That's just the nature of it. And so lunar Pisceans quickly absorb the feelings and psychic debris of others as a result of this continual deep diving. And it's an exhausting combination because when we do not receive this dream state that we seek, we will find solace in external substances. So that is where, when we talk about the level of balancing the Virgo moon sign will do with Pisces, being kind of limited to just tapping into that dreaminess enough to be practical and self-appreciative of the clarity that it holds, and allowing itself to heal itself with that practical insight, heal itself through nature, through practical projects, be it growing a plant or checking off lists of things that it wants, that it dreams of, that it needs. With Pisces moon sign, what we're talking about is being drawn towards scenarios where caretaking becomes this kind of messianic, thing where Messiah kind of complex, or, an artist that's going to heal the world kind of thing. This imbalance because of MDT for Pisces moon sign is highly dysregulating, because it makes it almost impossible for these individuals to adhere to the 3 C's of Al-Anon, of not being the cause of MDT, being not able to cure it or to control it. That's exactly what Pisces moon sign wants to do, and is convinced that it can do because of this dreaminess. And it absorbs all of the emotional debris from the mother. And so they're drawn toward these scenarios of caretaking, because they couldn't heal their mother. They're going to heal somebody or something, to the point where they become sick. And they're in a constant healing cycle for themselves. And so the potential for feeling this vast overwhelm among these natives is balance, a crisis balance that requires them to learn to dip cautiously into the waves of consciousness and pain, but not to allow themselves to be swept away by them. So the balance point with Virgo on the opposing end is about the calculation of energy that you have available. You're all yin, baby. You're all yin. And so you're going to need to, with that Neptunian, Jupiterian energy, activate some masculine energy with this Virgo of, can I afford to do this? Can I afford to save the world right now? Or do I really need to cautiously dip into this wave of desire, of dreaminess, and just pay attention to what's going on around me consciously, so as not to create more pain for myself? And so just as Virgo kind of dips into Pisces at the edges to balance its hyper perfection into a little dreaminess into the world, to allow things to kind of open up, to balance that, Pisces dips into Virgo. It's the ocean kind of waving up against the sand and soaking in enough to just kind of balance and sustain the shore, to allow themselves not to be swept away back into that deep ocean. So the Pisces moon sign, being in touch with the unconscious, needs to balance itself by becoming more conscious of what needs to happen in the material world in order for their dreams to actually come true in the material world. That's Virgo. What are the details here? Okay, what's the game plan? A, B, C, D, D, and not militaristically, Virgo's not ruled by Mars. It's ruled by Venus. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And so it's a playful energy. It's a creative energy. It's an investigative, inquisitive energy. Okay, so how can I do this? Not game plan where, okay, A, B, C, D, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. No, Mercurial means it can change, it can modify in order to expand and go right with you to the depths that you scale to experience what you need to experience, to set the dream in a space that you can work with as the waves hit the shore. That's what we have so far in our first installment about the moon signs. I hope that has been helpful for you. We've gone through them as an axis of healing and how we use our deep, intuitive, empathic powers to resolve daily, and for many of us, moment by moment, momentarily, these emotional crises and triggers that come up. Triggers are unhealed wounds, and we feel them very deeply as empaths, don't we? And being able to have a toolbox that we can use as a daily practice to begin to, instead of being triggered by family, partners, people every day, and not knowing what to do except retreating so that we can recharge our batteries after being drained, that's not working in 2024. It's not working in 2024. How ready are you to begin to do the work to actually dive deeper into your understanding of who you are and what you are as an empath with the mother womb? How able are you with the tools that you already have? Many of you have already done very deep work. Are you ready for the next cycle? Are you able to go to the next cycle? Deeper healing? Well, if you're willing to actually deal with these raw emotions, then you are ready to work with the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck. This is a 6-suit deck that will take you through each of these energies in response to any question that you have for Great Mother. You can check this out in the playlist at the Mama Drama Trauma YouTube channel and the classes that have been uploaded about each of the suits. And you might want to start with the suit that relates to your moon sign. As I shared with you before, each sign is ruled by a planet, and that planet rules a chakra. For those of you who are Capricorn, Aquarius moon signs, we said you are ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules the root chakra. You want to check out the Aspire video for the acknowledged suit. The Aspire video playlist has each suit. There are 6 suits, and each of them have a chakra. Now, we know there are 7 chakras. We reserve the 7th chakra for our angels, guides, and ancestors. Get your moon sign from the calculator. Capricorn, Aquarius, check out the Acknowledge video. Those of you who have Pisces and Sagittarius moon signs are ruled by the planet Jupiter. Jupiter rules the sacral chakra, or the 2nd chakra, the orange chakra, which is the self-inquiry suit. Check out that self-inquiry suit. It's going to tell you what that entire suit, those 8 cards are about in that suit. Each suit is made up of 8 cards. And see how much of that resonates with your daily trigger challenges. Those of you who have gut chakra energy, These are all the Martian or the Mars ruled moon signs of Aries and Scorpio. Check out the processing suit video, the yellow video at the Mama Drama Trauma YouTube channel, that processing class, and see how those 8 cards resonate with you. And put in the comments below what you responded to and what you may have found out new about your moon sign. Because the heart chakra suit, the green suit, that is the I in Aspire. In that playlist, you're going to see the integrity suit. Integrity, these are signs ruled by Venus. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. So if your moon sign is Taurus or Libra, check out the integrity class. The rebirth and resurrection class is the blue throat chakra energy of Mercury. Mercurial moon signs are Gemini and, did I say, no, Sagittarius is not. The throat is Libra and Gemini. It's Virgo, I'm sorry. Libra and Taurus are Venus. I'm getting tired. Virgo and Gemini are mercurial moon signs. These moon signs are the blue video. Want to check out Rebirth and Resurrection in the Aspire playlist. And for emancipation. This is our 6th chakra, the inner eye, Ajna. This right here, we primarily are talking about the moon and the sun. This purple card, these 8 cards, when we're talking about the back of the pituitary, the pineal glands, this is the yin yang of the 3rd eye. And so we have the purple inner eye cards of emancipation. These cards are, of course, ruled by the sun and the moon. And we have the emancipation suit. So if you are Cancer, or if you are Leo, you want to check out the emancipation suit and that blue suit in the Mama Drama Trauma YouTube channel. I think that's it for now, but this will begin an internal examination and an internal challenging of what the astrology can offer you and what questions you might have. Please feel free to ask those as well. We want to begin more engagement about this so that we can get to what will work to balance your crisis axis for you. Above all and most of all, remember, Great Mother loves you, and I do too.
My moon sign is my guide, but I know now that it is, and it can show me how to find my way out of tricky situations I find myself in all the time. I'm so grateful, grateful that loves me so. I'm gonna do